We know how important it is to live our faith. But now, does the brain have any functions that can help us live our faith? We are now on the final leg of our journey, traveling the road to unforgettable preaching and teaching. Let me elaborate on that statement. Your sermons likely will not be unforgettable every Sunday. Unfortunately, our own human lapses and inadequacies will keep us from achieving that goal. Nor will we be able to reach everyone every Sunday or every class day. The Spirit, we know, meets some defenses that Satan will still invite the listener to hold on to and use to keep the Spirit from helping us. But now, with all the strategies that we have available, we can feel better able to accomplish God's challenge for us, for they lead us to three types of knowledge: head, heart, and living knowledge. But what can we learn now about the process of communicating living knowledge? Can we find brain strategies for us here too that will help us? Yes, we can. Our final two strategies are derived from our knowledge of our brain's functions. Let's begin by inquiring. How have preachers, teachers traditionally followed God's way when He asks us to be patient, to love your neighbor, to trust God, to repent? In many cases, the preachers and teachers may just repeat God's words. Be patient, love your neighbor, trust God, repent. Of course, these are essential and extremely helpful parts of our everyday life as Christians, but oftentimes we don't know how to be patient, how to love our neighbor, how to trust him, and to repent. Being patient and loving our neighbor doesn't happen automatically every time we hear the words. Well, what can we do? I would say use our brain. But first, ask this: does God use our brain to change belief into action? Yes, He does. So how is that accomplished? Well, let's recognize right away there is a gap between faith and actions. The Apostle James said it long ago. In the first chapter of his letter, in verse 22, he says, "Do not merely listen to the words and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says." And again in chapter 2, "What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith, but has not deeds?" But the history of many individuals in the Bible, including Jesus' example, certainly show that the gap can be bridged. God has prepared another memory system for us. It's located in the prefrontal cortex. Remember, that's where our brain's executive center is located. The items in this memory system can show us the way to bridge the gap. They include the many rules or principles that already guide us in our daily actions, such as showing responsibility and showing concern for others. We call these virtues. The Bible points us to those Christian virtues. They are the ones that help us live the truths that God has given us in the Bible. But our present memory system probably doesn't include all the necessary virtues for me or for you. Adult Christians vary, though, in the number and depth of their virtues. For some, a number have already been developed through early life, through the helpful work of our parents and teachers. But we recognize that we often need to develop them more carefully. And then there are others that we haven't even touched. Maybe we need to learn to be more patient or to trust in God more regularly. Well, how can we learn to develop them in ourselves? God's Spirit shows the way to bridge the gap. He shows us strategies in the brain that help us meet that challenge. Here are two strategies that have their source in our brain. Imagine is one such strategy. Another is just look through God's eyes and then make a plan of action. Well, let's take a closer look at that first one. Imagining. Please notice that we already have the ability to imagine something in the past as well as something in the future. That function is in our brain. Of course, some persons use that ability to their detriment. It results in just fanciful dreaming or fantasizing. But we can also see this, from our point of view, as God's creative gift, and we can use it purposefully. Well, can imagining really help? Many secular professionals say yes. Think of musicians, artists, even sports players. Look more carefully at those who are really accomplished in their field. Many of them will point to the process of imagining their work in advance of the actual performance. They call it mental rehearsal. They review in their mind the entire composition or game that they will be involved in during a succeeding time. They picture in their mind their own movements that they're going to make, their actions that will help them the most. Their accomplishments, of course, speak to the importance of their earlier imagining. Yes, you can do this too, as you develop any of the Christian virtues. Just imagine a situation tomorrow, for example, when you will be talking to a friend, a co-worker, or family member. Imagine what you will likely be saying, what you will likely be doing, when you actually try to be patient, and when you try to love others, when you try to trust in God. This is imagining. Here's what happens in your brain. You may remember my picture of the two neurons in an earlier video, how each one may use one of the 5,000 to 10,000 dendrites to attach itself to the axon or core of another neuron through an electrical chemical discharge. Researchers have seen the actual activity of the neurons as their subjects were just thinking about a future action. Yes, thinking of the action does make it so. It actually occurs in the brain. So, practice of the proposed action, just by thinking about it, does help. It may not make the actual physical movement perfect, but it certainly does make it better than without thinking or practice. But please remember this, it's the Spirit that gives the spark to get things going in the right direction, and the support needed for all future repetitions. God's Spirit, of course, works through His Word. Future explanations and descriptions of this strategy of imagining, as well as of the 10th strategy, look through the eyes of God and make a plan of action, they're included in the proposed book. Let me now point to all of the previous videos. I've referred to a number of strategies that help the preacher and teacher lead the listener to head knowledge, heart knowledge, and finally to living knowledge. Each one stems from functions in the brain that God has created for us. They all contribute to what may be hopefully become unforgettable preaching and teaching. Let's join each other then on this road to unforgettable preaching and teaching. May God enable you to do so. I'm very happy to have had the privilege of sharing this vital information about the brain with you. And I would appreciate receiving any comments that you have, positive or critical, at your convenience. Thank you.